Have you ever allowed a single moment of frustration to derail your entire day? One harsh word, one disrespectful gesture, and suddenly you're consumed by rage, knocked off balance, and saying things you'll regret later. Why does it seem impossible to maintain composure when emotions surge? And more crucially, how can we reclaim that control? Ancient Stoic philosophers understood that your mind, not external circumstances, not other people, is where the real battle takes place. They recognized that genuine power lies not in responding louder, but in choosing not to respond at all. It's about selecting calmness over chaos, refusing to surrender your inner peace to those who haven't earned it. This guide will reveal precisely how to achieve emotional mastery, not through suppression, but by fundamentally transforming your response patterns. You'll discover practical, proven Stoic methods to help you pause before responding, release what doesn't benefit you, and command your emotions like a mental warrior. Struggling with this doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. Everyone encounters the heat of anger and the sting of disrespect, but few learn to transcend it. That's where your transformation begins. If you've ever felt drained from emotional hijacking, this message is for you. Subscribe to Stoic Vision for more transformative strategies, and share this with someone who needs to reclaim their peace. Once you grasp Stoicism, you don't merely manage anger, you become unshakable, and that changes everything. 1. Recognize emotional reactions as learned patterns you can rewire. You weren't born reactive. You didn't enter this world snapping at drivers, slamming doors, or replaying arguments endlessly in your mind. These automatic responses were learned accumulated through years of stress, ego, and cultural messages telling men they must be aggressive, loud, and dominant. Here's the reality. Genuine strength is quiet, not noisy. The most powerful person in any situation is the one who remains steady, doesn't retaliate, and refuses to let minor provocations disturb their equilibrium. Anger isn't merely an emotion, it's a conditioned pattern, and like any pattern, it can be dismantled. But first, you must see it clearly. A chain reaction that persists only because you fuel it. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your supervisor speaks condescendingly. Your partner makes a cutting remark. Before conscious thought catches up, you've already reacted. That's the cycle. Most people remain trapped in it their entire lives, believing it defines them, but Stoics viewed it differently. They didn't see anger as a personality trait. They saw it as concealed weakness. Epictetus observed, "Anyone susceptible to anger becomes enslaved by it." When you react blindly, you hand your power to whatever triggered you. You become predictable, easily manipulated, and emotionally depleted. Imagine standing in a long line when someone brazenly cuts in front. You feel it building tight chest, clenched jaw, the impulse to confront them. That precise moment is your battlefield. You can either fight the familiar war you always lose, or pause and ask yourself, will anger improve this situation? You already know the answer. You've experienced the aftermath of lashing out nothing but increased stress, deeper regret, and greater distance from who you're striving to become. This is where Stoicism revolutionizes everything. You don't suppress feelings, you step outside them. Observe them like passing clouds. Acknowledge them without letting them take control. Your rational mind, that's the driver. That's the power Stoics cultivated through discipline. Most people justify their anger as proof they care, believing calmness signals weakness or indifference. But it's the opposite. Anyone can explode, that's effortless. What demands discipline, maturity, and true strength is maintaining composure when everything tries to shake you. When someone disrespects you, and you deny them the satisfaction of seeing you rattled, that's dominance. When chaos surrounds you and you stand firm, that's control. Next time that fire ignites within you, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, this anger is a habit. I no longer need to wear it. Then walk away not from weakness, but because you've grown too powerful to waste energy on things unworthy of it. You're not here to be triggered. You're here to reclaim your power. That begins not with external change, but with responding differently. Respond like someone who owns their mind. Respond like a Stoic. 2. Focus on self-mastery instead of controlling others. Exploding is easy. Raising your voice, throwing verbal jabs, or storming away, that's what most people do when disrespected. Attempting to regain some semblance of power. But that kind of power is illusory. It burns intensely, fades quickly, and invariably leaves you feeling diminished. Genuine control doesn't come from dominating others. It emerges from mastering yourself in critical moments. Anger deceives you. It insists that remaining silent means weakness, that when pushed, you must push back harder. But reflect honestly. How often has getting angry actually resolved anything? You escalate, they escalate further. You prove your point, but damage the relationship. You win the argument, but lose sleep over your words. Ultimately, you feel exhausted because you were never truly in control. You were merely reacting. Picture this scenario. You're in a meeting. Your manager unfairly criticizes your contribution in front of everyone, even arrogantly. Heat rises within you. Every instinct screams to defend yourself, to shut them down. But something stops you. An inner voice says, responding now will only worsen this. So you pause. You breathe. You say, I appreciate the feedback. I'll reconsider. And you move forward. Later, privately, you address it with clarity, not emotion. That's control. That's strength. That's Stoic. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you possess power over your mind, not external events. Understand this, and you'll discover strength. Stoics didn't let pride dictate their actions. They believed in thoughtful response over knee-jerk reaction, clarity over chaos. They grasped what many still don't. Attempting to control others is futile. What you can always control is how you choose to show up. The common mistake is equating silence with weakness, believing that walking away diminishes you. But consider the last time someone lost control in front of you. Did you respect them more? Or did they lose credibility? Rage is loud, but respect is quiet. When you maintain composure under provocation, you become untouchable. That unsettles people far more than shouting ever could. The Stoic approach doesn't mean never speaking up. It means choosing how and when on your terms, not anger's terms. When you learn to delay reactions, letting emotion pass before acting, you create space. In that space, wisdom emerges. Better decisions form. Self-respect remains intact. Next time someone disrespects you, don't take the bait. Let them behave poorly. You remain solid not from fear, but because you choose not to descend into their storm. You rise above it, not for them, but for yourself. That's what genuine control looks like. It's not about having the last word. It's about maintaining your peace. Start today. Don't try controlling the room. Control your breathing, your words, your expression, your energy. You'll emerge from every conflict with something most never find: your dignity intact. That's a victory no one can take from you. 3. Develop calmness as a skill through consistent practice. You cannot expect to remain calm during chaos if you've never practiced calmness in quiet moments. That's where most fail. They wait until they're angry, disrespected, or overwhelmed, then attempt to control themselves. But emotional strength doesn't appear on command. It's trained, earned, built in silent moments when nobody's watching. Just as your body won't strengthen without consistent training, your mind won't suddenly hold steady under pressure unless you've been conditioning it daily. Self-mastery isn't a switch. It's a skill you forge. Consider someone who's never lifted weights suddenly attempting to press 300 pounds, they'd be crushed. The same applies to emotions. If you never train yourself to pause, breathe, and sit with discomfort instead of reacting, the first time life hits hard, you'll crumble not from weakness, but from lack of preparation. Imagine this. After an exhausting day, your child spills juice on your laptop. Your instinct fires, you want to yell. But something clicks. You've been working on this. Instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe. You say, "Let's clean this up together." That moment seems small, but it's not. That's a repetition. That's strength in action. And that repetition will serve you in far greater storms. Stoicism wasn't designed for isolated monks. It was created for real life. Soldiers, leaders, workers, parents, people surrounded by stress, noise, and conflict. It teaches that peace isn't found in isolation, but by training your mind to remain still amid storms. That training starts with small things. Waking early for reflection, journaling thoughts before bed, choosing silence over sarcasm when frustrated. These aren't empty rituals, they're workouts for your character. The mistake is waiting for crisis to prove you can stay cool. That's not how it works. You prepare in advance. You build practices that strengthen focus, deepen breathing, and sharpen awareness. Because when pressure arrives, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius reflected daily on what triggered him, what tested him, and how he could respond better tomorrow, not from weakness, but from desire to grow stronger. Epictetus, once enslaved, taught that discipline begins not in grand gestures, but in daily control of thought and emotion. They practiced calm as habit, not reaction. If you want to stop being someone who loses control when things go wrong, become someone who prepares before they do. Sit with discomfort instead of seeking distraction. Notice your breath when tempted to speak hastily. Reflect at day's end, even briefly. These aren't small acts, they're your emotional conditioning. Nobody's born stoic. Nobody awakens with perfect self-control. But those who commit, who repeat, who train, they become unshakable. You build calmness like anything else. With effort, practice, and time. Don't wait for the world to test you. Test yourself daily, because those who train their minds in stillness triumph when chaos arrives. 4. Release what doesn't serve your growth. You planned your entire day. Wake early, exercise, complete tasks, feel accomplished. Then traffic snarls, someone cancels at the last minute, your boss adds work without notice. Now the plan crumbles and frustration builds. That tightness in your chest, that heat rising, it's not from the event itself. It's from your resistance to it. You're not frustrated because things changed. You're frustrated because you expected they wouldn't. But reality doesn't respect your schedule. Life doesn't request permission before shifting course. The longer you cling to how you wanted things to unfold, the more you suffer. That's not weakness. That's attachment. Unchecked attachment becomes a prison. Someone who requires everything to proceed perfectly to stay calm will never know peace. Letting go isn't surrendering, It's recognizing what's not worth holding. It's learning to distinguish between what's in your hands and what's slipping through your fingers, regardless of how tightly you grip. Stoics understood this profoundly. They didn't waste energy on traffic, rude people, or disrupted plans. They conserved that energy for what they could actually shape: their character, their mindset, their response. When something derails your day, don't immediately react. Step back. Ask, is this within my control? If not, don't feed it with attention. Let it pass like bad weather. You're not ignoring reality, you're choosing not to drown in it. That's not denial, that's discipline. Most mistake control for forcing circumstances to comply. But genuine control is adaptation. Power isn't making the world obey, it's remaining calm when it doesn't. That's why Stoicism isn't passive, it's precise. It doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop wasting care on what cannot be changed. That shift frees your strength for what truly matters. Picture this. In a parking lot, a stranger backs into your car, leaves a dent, and shrugs indifferently. You want to explode. You want justice. But after the initial wave, you pause. You ask, will raging fix the dent? Will it make them care more? No. So you handle the paperwork. You stay calm. You protect your energy. You drive away not just with a damaged bumper, but with your dignity intact. That's the move. That's the victory. Not because you let them off easy, but because you didn't let them take anything more than metal. They don't get your peace, your evening, your well-being. You kept those. Because you released what wasn't worth keeping. Stoic strength doesn't shout. It doesn't cling. It releases. And in that release, genuine control emerges. Start asking more often, is this mine to hold? If not, let it go. Because those who know what to carry and what to drop don't rage at every storm. They walk through it calm, clear, and unshaken. 5. Transform conflict into personal development opportunities. You cannot avoid conflict, not while living, working, engaging with people, building anything meaningful. Someone will challenge you, misunderstand you, speak condescendingly, or test your boundaries. That's reality. But most approach conflict reactively, viewing it as a threat to pride, a moment requiring victory or validation. So they tense up, raise voices, attempt to dominate. In doing so, they miss what conflict truly represents. Not a threat to your power, but a revelation of it. Conflict exposes where you still lose control, where ego still leads, where you remain enslaved to others' opinions. This is precisely why Stoics treated every confrontation, every insult, every unfair moment, not as a problem, but as practice. They believed life constantly provides repetitions, opportunities to strengthen your mind by refusing to be dragged down by noise. Imagine standing at a store counter. You've been waiting patiently while the clerk assists someone else. Then someone behind you jumps ahead, waves a receipt, and demands immediate service. He raises his voice. Everyone turns. There you are, heart racing, jaw tight, ready to explode. But you don't. Instead, you step back internally. You ask, what's actually at stake here? My time, my ego, or my peace? Right there, you choose not to roll over, but to rise above. That's not weakness. That's precision power. Many mistake calmness for surrender. Believing non-reaction means letting people walk over you. But letting emotions hijack you, that's giving power away. Stoics don't avoid confrontation. They don't let it control them. They speak when necessary, but not with rage. They speak with clarity, knowing the only thing worse than being disrespected is lowering yourself to match that disrespect. When you view every challenge as a test, not of who's right, but of who's in control, you become increasingly unshakable. Conflict transforms from battlefield to gymnasium. You stop wasting energy on petty arguments. You stop letting small people shrink your world. Instead, you use each moment to build strength. That's how Marcus Aurelius lived. Ruling an empire, facing betrayal, war, and politics, he chose stillness. He didn't chase revenge, he chased integrity, understanding that every interaction is an opportunity to practice self-mastery. Those who adopt this approach don't merely survive conflict, they walk through it unchanged, untouchable. Next time someone pushes your buttons, try this. Instead of snapping back, say nothing. Instead of proving a point, protect your energy. Instead of letting their chaos become yours, become the calm they cannot reach. Not for appearance, not for approval, but because you've trained yourself to rise above what isn't worth your dissent. You're not here to react to every insult. You're here to sharpen your edge. Every moment of conflict is an opportunity to do exactly that. Respond with control. That's how you win. And every time you do, you prove something far greater than dominance. You prove you've mastered the most challenging battlefield of all, yourself. 6. Stay grounded. Your mind creates most of your anger. It's not the moment that angers you, it's your mind racing 10 steps ahead or spiraling 10 steps behind. You're not upset about what someone said. You're upset about what they meant, what might happen next, what it reveals about you, what you should have said back. That noise in your head, that's where most suffering originates. Until you stop living in the past or future, you'll keep losing control in the only moment that matters. Now. This happens constantly, though rarely discussed. You get cut off in traffic 3 seconds of inconvenience, but mentally, you replay it for 30 minutes. You imagine confronting them, yelling, asserting dominance. You carry that weight into your next call, meeting, even dinner. The moment's gone, but your mind drags it like chains. That's how minor incidents become heavy burdens, because you never learn to release them when they happen. Stoicism cuts through this mental clutter decisively. It says you only ever have now. And now, there's no insult, no imagined outcome, no history to fix. Only breath, action, choice. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to return to the present. Whenever thoughts wandered, he reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Not tomorrow. Not after winning the argument. Right now. The trap is believing your thoughts are facts, that because you're thinking something, it must be true. But most reactions aren't to reality, they're to imagination. Stoics understood that an untamed mind is the root of unnecessary pain, that unchecked imagination builds enemies that don't exist, and arguments that never happened. Try this. You're approaching a conversation with someone you dislike. You're already bracing for conflict, expecting disrespect. That tension, it's not from anything they've said. It's from the future you've created in your mind. Stop. Come back. Be present. Maybe they'll say something rude. Maybe they won't. Either way, you'll handle it better from a grounded mind than a racing one. Mindfulness isn't spiritual fluff. It's tactical advantage. It keeps your head clear when instincts want chaos. You don't need to meditate for hours. Just notice your breath, posture, sounds in the room, feeling of feet on ground. Every time your mind wants to spin stories, bring it back. Train it like muscle to stay here. When you do, you stop overreacting to things that aren't even happening. You stop reliving what you cannot fix. You stop rehearsing what you don't need to say. You start responding not from anxiety or fear, but from presence. That's where your calm lives. That's where your power lives. You don't control what's already happened. You don't control what hasn't happened yet, but you do control now. And if you can own now, even for a few breaths, you're not just practicing Stoicism, you're living free. That's the kind of strength nobody can take from you. 7. Release resentment before it consumes you. Resentment doesn't just poison your mind, it deteriorates your body. You've seen it. Someone who looks exhausted despite rest, who moves heavily despite carrying nothing, who flinches at kindness because they're accustomed to betrayal. That weight isn't physical, it's emotional. The longer you hold anger, blame, and bitterness, the more it consumes your energy, clarity, and capacity to feel light again. Most don't notice it happening. They think they've moved on because they're silent. But silence isn't healing. Just because you don't discuss it doesn't mean it isn't shaping how you speak, how you trust, how you live. That grudge from 5 years ago, it's in your shoulders now, in your sleep, in how quickly you snap when someone barely crosses a line. This is precisely why Stoics viewed forgiveness not as moral obligation, but as self-preservation. Letting go isn't about making peace with what was done, it's about refusing to let it keep owning you. Every ounce of resentment you hold robs you of present peace. Nobody deserves that kind of power over your life, not even those who wronged you. Epictetus said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus can overcome my will." That's what forgiveness is not: approval, not forgetting, but refusing to be shackled from within. Recall a moment when someone crossed the line they lied, left, or embarrassed you publicly. You told yourself you'd never forget. Maybe you didn't. But every time you think of them, your stomach tightens, energy drops, peace departs. That's not strength, that's self-inflicted punishment. You're reliving what they did long after they've forgotten it. That's the trap. Thinking holding on protects you, when actually it weakens you. Stoics don't hold anger like armor. They release it like fire in their hands, knowing it burns the carrier most. Forgiveness doesn't mean trusting them again. It means reclaiming space in your heart for something better, something lighter. It starts with one choice. Stop feeding the story of what they did. Every time you replay the offense, you reinforce the wound. Stop rehearsing pain. Start protecting your energy. You're in the break room. Someone makes a cutting comment. You know it's a jab. You could retaliate. You could carry it home, discuss it with friends, let it replay until midnight. Or you could smile not from weakness, but because you're done carrying trash that isn't yours. You breathe. You walk out. You leave the weight behind. That's not passivity, that's controlled power. That's knowing what's worth your energy and what isn't. When you start releasing resentment, you'll feel it in your posture, sleep, mental clarity. Forgiveness isn't a favor to them, it's a gift you give yourself. Let it go not for their sake, but so you stop dragging your past into your present. You've got more life ahead than behind. Make space for it. Those who travel light move faster, breathe deeper, live free. You can be that person if you're ready to put the weight down. 8. The power of the pause, it changes everything. It happens faster than thought. One sentence, one tone, one offhand remark, and you're already halfway to raising your voice or slamming doors. By the time you realize you're angry, your reaction has already seized control. That's how most live on autopilot, pushed by external triggers, pulled by internal tension. In that split second between spark and fire, they surrender their power. But what if that split second was where you reclaimed it? Stoicism begins in the pause, the space between what happens and what you do next. That's the true battlefield, not the argument, not the insult. The real fight occurs in that breath, that tiny delay where you choose. Do I react as I always have, or respond as the person I'm striving to become? Most don't even perceive that space. Their emotions outrun awareness. But once you start recognizing it, you realize how much control you actually possess and how often you've been throwing it away. Imagine your teenage son talks back again. That tone, that look, it stings. You're about to snap, but something holds you. You take one breath, then say, "I'm going to respond in a minute." That move right there, that's power. Not silence from fear, but restraint with purpose. You've just interrupted a cycle that's played out for years, and now you're writing a new one. The mistake is believing that if you don't react fast, you'll lose respect. That hesitation signals weakness. But what you gain in those 2 seconds is clarity. You give your brain time to process, decide, aim. That's what Stoics trained for, not absence of emotion, but mastery of timing. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, "Don't feel." He said, "Don't act unless it serves the greater good." And that good often starts with silence. We live in a world rewarding fast reactions. Text back now, respond now, defend yourself instantly. But emotional discipline isn't about speed, it's about accuracy. Saying the right thing at the right time, with the right tone. You can't achieve that if adrenaline does the talking. You need to stop, breathe, name what you're feeling before it becomes something you regret. It doesn't require years of meditation, just one choice. When pressure hits, pause. Tell yourself, "I don't need to react yet." Walk to another room. Take 10 deep breaths. Ask, "What's the outcome I want here?" Then, only then, speak, move, act. Not from ego, from intention. The Stoic isn't cold, they're clear, not slow, steady. They don't repress feelings, they command them. Because in that pause, they see more. Consequences, opportunities. They step into both with steady hands. From this point forward, treat every moment of tension as training ground. When your heart races, face heats, fists clench, don't move. Not yet. Let the moment settle, then decide how to own it. Because those who master the pause don't just win arguments, they win themselves. And that is a victory worth choosing again and again. Conclusion. Your path to unshakable strength. You are not a prisoner of your emotions. You're not bound to anger, resentment, or compulsive reactions. What Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus taught and lived is that calmness isn't given, it's forged. Self-control isn't denial, it's discipline. Peace isn't weakness, it's power sharpened in silence. We've explored how anger is a learned pattern that can be unlearned, how genuine strength comes from self-mastery, not domination, how emotional calmness is built like muscle through small daily choices. You've seen that releasing is wisdom, not surrender. That staying present is your best defense against stress. That in every tense moment you have a window, a pause where character is forged. This isn't theory, this is your life. It's in how you respond to your partner, how you hold ground in meetings, how you walk away from noise and stand firm in values. Each moment is practice. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. This is how you stop being triggered by everything and start becoming untouchable. Begin today. Train your breath. Hold your words. Master your pause. Build a mind that cannot be shaken by what it cannot control. Share your story in the comments. What moment tested you recently? What have you learned from holding back? We learn through reflection and grow by helping others do the same. Because in the end, those who master themselves, their thoughts, reactions, energy, are those who own their lives. And that is the kind of strength that endures. Subscribe to Stoic Vision for more transformative wisdom. Your journey to unshakable strength begins now.